In 1997, listening stations scattered across the Pacific Ocean detected something unusual, a low-frequency acoustic signal, powerful enough to travel thousands of kilometers through the ocean. For decades, scientists studied recordings like this to identify earthquakes, volcanic activity, whales, ships, and the movement of Antarctic ice. Most sounds eventually found an explanation. This one became famous for another reason. For a time, nobody knew what had made it. They called it the Bloop. Years later, researchers proposed a likely explanation. Massive Antarctic ice fractures can generate sounds powerful enough to cross enormous distances underwater. For most scientists, that was the end of the story. But there was something hidden in the original recordings. Something almost lost beneath the background noise. A second pulse, fainter than the first, and coming from much deeper. 29 years after the original recording, a privately funded oceanographic expedition returned to the estimated region of origin. Their objective was simple: deploy a new generation of hydrophones along the seafloor, reconstruct the acoustic event, and determine whether the secondary signal had been an artifact or something else. The expedition vessel Asteria carried 14 crew members, 4 oceanographers, 2 marine geologists, 3 acoustic specialists, a submarine pilot, 2 engineers, a physician, and a documentary cameraman. For 6 days, they recorded nothing unusual. But this night at 2:13 in the morning, Hydrophone 3 detected a pulse. The frequency pattern was almost identical to the archived recording, but this time, they knew where it came from, directly beneath them. At 6:40, the expedition launched Orpheus, a 3-person deep submergence vehicle designed to operate beyond 6,000 meters. Their destination was an unnamed trench approximately 17 kilometers from the ship. The descent would take nearly 3 hours. At 200 meters, the sunlight began to disappear. At 700, they entered darkness. At 1,000, the surface ceased to exist. Outside the windows, the pressure exceeded 100 atmospheres. There was nothing to see, only particles drifting through the submarine's lights. Occasionally, something moved beyond them, a squid, a fish, a shadow. Then, at 3,800 meters, the pilot turned off the exterior lights, and the ocean came alive. Thousands of tiny organisms surrounded the submarine. Blue, green, white, bioluminescent creatures drifting through the darkness like stars. For several minutes, the crew simply watched. But few minutes later, every light disappeared. At once. Not gradually. Every organism outside the submarine stopped glowing at exactly the same time. At 4,200 meters, sonar detected the seafloor. But something was wrong. The charts predicted another 100 meters of water. The pilot stopped the descent. Sonar was activated again. The bottom appeared directly beneath them, flat, approximately 70 meters across, just before it moved. The contact disappeared from sonar. The actual seafloor returned. 100 meters below, nobody aboard Orpheus spoke for 17 seconds. The sonar was recalibrated. No malfunction was found. They continued downward. At 4,600 meters, the hydrophone detected another pulse. This time, they didn't need the equipment to hear it. The hull vibrated, not violently, almost gently, like something enormous had moved somewhere beyond the lights. At 5,030 meters, Orpheus reached the bottom. The terrain was unlike what the expedition expected. The seafloor was covered in long parallel depressions, each approximately 4 meters wide. They continued for hundreds of meters, before disappearing into the trench. The geological team aboard Asteria suggested they were fractures. The submarine crew disagreed. Fractures don't normally curve. These did. After 2 hours of research, they finally found the hydrophone. Number 3, the instrument that had detected the signal 12 hours earlier. It had been anchored to the seafloor. Now it was lying almost 60 meters away. The steel mounting frame was bent. Not broken, bent. The submarine moved closer, and the hydrophone began recording another signal. But this one wasn't coming through the water. It was coming from beneath the seafloor. The pulse repeated every 47 seconds. Exactly, not approximately. Exactly 47 seconds. The crew stopped moving, engines off, lights reduced. They listened. 47 seconds. But after listening for minutes, the interval changed. 43 seconds, 38, 31, 22. Whatever was producing the signal was getting closer. The pilot ordered an immediate ascent. Ballast released. Orpheus began climbing. At 5,100 meters, the rear camera failed. Then the temperature sensor. Then the compass. The submarine's acoustic link with the surface became unstable. And finally, sonar detected a contact. Behind them. Distance, 180 meters. Then 140, 90, 60. Nothing appeared in the lights. The contact reached 30 meters, then vanished. 3 seconds later, something blocked the stars above them. Orpheus resurfaced 4 hours later. All 3 crew members survived. The submarine suffered no major structural damage. The sonar system was inspected. No malfunction was discovered. The damaged hydrophone was recovered 2 days later. Most of its recordings were corrupted, except for 11 seconds. The recording contained the familiar low-frequency pulse. But underneath it, technicians discovered something else, a sequence of smaller vibrations, too quiet to have been noticed during the expedition. They isolated the frequencies, slowed them down, and found a repeating pattern. Just before a silence, no explanation was included in the expedition report. The mission ended 3 days later. The Asteria returned to port. No second expedition was approved. Officially, the 1997 Bloop has an explanation: ice. And there is no evidence that the original signal was produced by an unknown animal. The expedition never challenged that conclusion. But before leaving the region, the crew recovered one final recording. It came from hydrophone 7, located 42 kilometers away. It recorded the same pulse. At the exact moment, Orpheus began its emergency ascent. Except there was one difference. Hydrophone 7 detected the signal first. 42 kilometers away, then hydrophone 6, then 5, 4, and 3, one after another, moving toward the submarine. The final estimated speed was never published. A final low-frequency pulse, closer than before, corresponds to the last one recorder during the submarine ascent. Something was definitely there, and found them. The ocean still holds more secrets than answers. And somewhere beneath thousands of meters of darkness, there are still signals we don't understand. If you enjoyed this expedition, subscribe and join us for the next descent into the unknown, because some mysteries aren't meant to stay buried. Until the next expedition.